am Michelle Ballady, Vice President, Government Relations for Travelers, and it is my pleasure this afternoon to introduce our next speaker, California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara. Commissioner Lara was raised in East Los Angeles by immigrant parents. He made history in 2018 by becoming the first openly gay person elected to statewide office in California. Commissioner Lara previously served in the California legislature, representing Assembly District 50 from 2010 to 2012, and Senate District 33 from 2012 to 2018. As Insurance Commissioner, his administration's priorities include recovering from natural disasters and resisting climate change, protecting Californians from fraud, embracing technology, and ensuring a fair insurance market. Please join me in welcoming Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's great to be here and share a few thoughts as we continue to embark on some very serious challenges for the department and for our state. As you all know, our state has been scorched by devastating wildfires for three of the last 4 years, leaving tens of thousands of Californians homeless and facing a long and difficult road as we work to rebuild their lives and their homes. And if that wasn't all, we know since 7/2015, we've experienced 9 of the top 20 most destructive wildfires in our state's history, in lives lost and buildings destroyed. If that wasn't enough, we had massive flooding in Northern California, and now we have earthquakes. So, I used to joke around that all we need is earthquakes, and now we have them. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut from moving forward, because, I don't want any more natural disasters pending. But I want to seriously thank all of you for answering the call and participating in our town hall events up in Northern California and Southern California. We've heard from many consumers that have claims that they appreciate the fact that many of you were there to help them and instruct them during some of the most difficult decisions they have to make in their lives. And I hope we can count on you as we continue to tackle these important and critical issues moving forward. You all have built a strong partnership with the Department of Insurance, not just in response to wildfires and other disasters, but also through our joint public safety and education campaigns, such as our distracted driving and our disaster preparedness campaigns as well. I really look forward to strengthening that partnership on everything from distracted and impaired driving to the disaster mitigation and preparedness, as we now continue to address these critical issues, especially when it comes to earthquake insurance and the availability of. These are all issues that we share, because in the end, organizations like yours and our department are here really to serve the California consumer. And thank you for mobilizing your teams so quickly after each of these catastrophic fires, earthquakes, and floods. While we may not always agree on every single issue, we will always agree to open and frank conversations as we work to ensure a strong, competitive insurance marketplace. And so I want to take a moment to talk about a major announcement we had around the area of sustainable insurance. When it comes to wildfire risk, and we've had a lot of work to do and continue to do a lot of work, insurance is the untapped potential of fighting for climate change. And on conversations we had yesterday, we're really honing in on how insurance companies and folks who work in this industry are really financial scientists, really trying to bog down to where are we most at risk, and utilizing that skill to help us combat climate change and help us be a little bit more resilient as a state and as a nation. So this week I was excited to announce that we are partnering with the United Nations to create a sustainable insurance roadmap. With this announcement, California becomes the first state and the first subnational government in the world to take on such a project. And I look forward to working with you in the next coming year as we continue to unveil these pieces of this important roadmap. The only other entity, government entity, working on such a thing is Egypt, of all places. And so I figured if Egypt can get this done, we can get this done in California, proving that we are the largest insurance market in the country. And let me tell you a little bit about the sustainable roadmap. Really would be a collaborative effort to develop policies and resilient insurance markets. And part of the comprehensive approach includes promoting new innovative products, developing natural infrastructure approaches, advancing sustainable investment strategies, and harnessing the risk management expertise of insurers and reinsurers. We have an opportunity to utilize insurance markets to protect Californians from the threat of climate change, including sea level rise, extreme heat, and wildfires. I invite your companies to work with my Deputy Commissioner on Climate and Sustainability, the first deputy level position in the country to try to tackle these issues in the insurance industry. I want us to be partners on innovative solutions that help save lives and property and reduce the risk of climate-linked disaster. You know, we keep hearing non-renewals in parts of the state that are making it increasingly difficult for some to find coverage in the open market. Availability, affordability, and fire coverage is a top priority for our department and myself. And we have to figure out how we engage in community-wide mitigation efforts that are proven to work, that are data-driven, and that have the expertise around there and the input from our insurance industry. Because we can be as reactive as we want, but the only way we're going to get to a point where we address the issue of availability is by demonstrating that we are engaging in community-wide mitigation efforts to lessen that risk, which, by the way, has made me very unpopular with my friends. I go to their home now and I'm like, you know that tree that's right there? I don't know. And they're like, dude, what happened to you? And I'm like, I'm just letting you know, this is a reality. And if you sell this house, I don't know. And they're like, can you just stop and have a drink? You're so boring now. You used to be a cool kid in school. And I'm like, oh, we gotta grow up. I'm trying to protect your assets here. You know? I'm trying to, let me work for you. That's what I'm doing. But, as a member of Governor Newsom's strike team addressing our state wildfire crisis, I'm working with the insurance industry, and we've made several meetings and really working collaboratively in a place that's open and transparent to figure out how we find new ways to promote prevention and to also allow us to be a little bit more innovative when it comes to the department. SB 290, as you know, the California Disaster Insurance, is our first response to protecting our budgets so we can invest proactively, taking our insurance and our wildfire response, really taking that into consideration, just like FEMA has done and what Oregon has done at a much smaller scale with their wildfire funds. So investing in prevention will lead to a stronger, more resilient insurance marketplace and more available and affordable insurance options for Californians. So I want to thank you for being one of the first organizations to support SB 290, and I look forward to continuing to partner with you to ensure the bill moves forward to the governor's desk and ultimately obtain his signature. I'm ready to get creative, just like all of you have been for so many years. And now you have somebody who's receptive to that in the department. We talked about during the introduction where I grew up and some of the issues relating to what so many Californians are going through. And we talk about healthcare. Healthcare is very personal to me as somebody who grew up without absolutely any healthcare. Both my parents were immigrants to this country and for many years lived as undocumented immigrants. So for us, healthcare was taking that 2.5-hour drive to Tijuana. And my parents disguised that as calling it a vacation. And every time there was a 3-day, we had those 3-day breaks from school, I knew it was gonna happen. That damn Sunday, we were on our way down to TJ to get poked and prodded. So I hated those 3-day weekends when we were in school, and I actually just wanted to stay in school. I'm like, I'm cool, can I do something? And they're like, the school's closed, Ricardo, you can't stay here. And we know what the rhetoric is around our country and our nation, unfortunately, is around healthcare. The national battles have been drawn, the battle lines have been drawn, and finding a solution for the high cost of healthcare and ever increasing is something that we want to continue to also work on. You know, I am on the side of increasing access to healthcare, reducing the cost of prescription drugs, covering more people, including our immigrants, to broaden our risk pool, because there's a couple things that we know about immigrant community. Data after data shows, one, they're younger, two, they're working, and allowing them to pay into the system will help strengthen the overall system for those of us that need the services now. It makes complete sense, and we should not be discriminated against a pool of people which, by the way, in the state of California, 30% of them can actually pay into a healthcare system like the Affordable Care Act. It makes complete financial sense to allow these folks to pay in, to allow us to strengthen that system. So California recently enacted a budget, includes a measure that I championed in the legislature, expanding healthcare to undocumented adults, young adults from 19 to 26. This is an effort again to control the cost of healthcare in California, where if we didn't have an option for primary care for these individuals, they end up in our emergency rooms. And we end up paying 3 times the amount for very limited care. So every time they come in for one thing or another, that's another hit to our budget. So we're closely spending $369 billion a year in healthcare. Not just in this population, but trying to address the constant expenses that people have to incur. And let's be honest, in the richest state in our country, people are still living without health care. And they forgo care because they just can't afford it or fear that they're gonna lose their assets. But I also wanna bring your attention to something that has been looming for many years, and we at the national level, in the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, are trying to tackle. That's the issue of long-term care insurance. Many of you know this product very well, and many of you may have these policies, but you know, recently in Kansas City, we got together and held several meetings to figure out how do we address this looming issue, where we have 73 million baby boomers, the largest generation in our history, are marching into the retirement years. And here's the reality: by the start of the next decade, 25% of the U.S. population will be 65 years or older. I'm not calling anybody out. The vast majority of them will require some type of long-term care, but we will not have the resources to pay for it. So, you know, back in the day, in the 90s and the 80s, insurers sold LTC products, promising to help them age with dignity, receive quality care with, you know, their depleting assets, and not having them have to rely on their families. The products were marketing success, but soon insurers realized they miscalculated the cost. Fact is, people are living longer. Technological advances are allowing people to live longer and prosper, but that also puts a strain on these products. Insurers have responded by increasing premiums, trimming future benefits, and abandoning the product completely, leaving consumers feeling shortchanged and very, very angry, as you can imagine. The other dynamic that's happening is when people find out of this issue with their product, they even forgo their life insurance. They'll forgo all these other products, but still hold on to their long-term care policy, which also exacerbates the problem. Because people understand the importance of wanting to live with dignity their later years and not have to be in a retirement home or anywhere else but their home. So, you know, let me be clear, there's no easy answers to long-term care the affordability crisis, but we're working through it as a member of the task force at the national level. But leaving aging consumers to fend for themselves, paying higher rates and skimp on coverage is not gonna be an option. California has the most LTC policies, as you can imagine, and the most to lose if we fail to find a solution. And so what we're trying to do with current legislation is try to give us a snapshot and give us additional ideas of how do we deal with this in California. You know, we are partnering with legislation which will provide key consumer protections, right to access any loan or withdrawal features while also receiving long-term care benefits, prohibits rates that increase based on insurers' age, mandate new statements and disclosures to help consumers make more informed decisions. We're also looking at legislation that would look at whether a statewide long-term care insurance program is in California's best interest. California has a robust review rate process, and the proposed legislation offer other additional paths forward for us as a state. And I believe now is the time to address this problem in our society, because it's only gonna exacerbate as people continue to age. And those millennials that we talk about all the time, eventually they're gonna age as well. Don't tell them though, they think they're unstoppable, and that's okay. We were all there once in a while, you know, Gen Xers. But this is something we need to address now. And I wanna take a moment to talk about InsurTech and innovation, which is an area that you all are interested in. And really, I think, is the future of insurance and the future of how consumers in California want to interact with their insurance company. And it's, let's be honest, it's how we all do business now these days. And in this industry should not be any different. I'm really actually enthusiastic about the promise of what technology can bring to the insurance marketplace. Today's consumers, as we know, are tech savvy, and a lot of us live on our smartphones. For younger generations, technology is woven into every aspect of their lives and social interactions, business transactions. It is also how they transact business and how we come to expect business to interact with our needs. Led by youth and so many people who are tech savvy now in California, we see older generations embracing this technology as well. And as we were in Santa Rosa meeting with some folks, and it was a senior citizen who we were talking about technology, and she's like, don't make assumptions that I don't know how to read a contract on my phone, or that I can't, click on a link and be able to access that specific code section that governs that, insurance contract. And so we see people engaging in technology that from multi-generational. But let's look at the numbers and what the numbers tell us. 77% of Americans own a smartphone. More than 60% of them, all purchases begin on a smart device. 57% of smartphone users use online banking. 44% conduct real estate searches or business on their smartphone. This is the reality. And our department has to start thinking this way. And how do we make it easier for folks, and of course protecting their privacy, but how do we make it easy for them to make the best choice for them and their family, also, especially when it comes to their insurance products and insurance needs. So in my view, the age of InsurTech has long arrived. Our department has been a little behind, and we need to figure out how we close this digital divide in this industry. Today's consumers can file and manage a claim online, saving them time and the insured time and money. Clearly, the time has come for consumers to conduct more insurance transactions online. Imagine being able to provide proof of insurance through an app on your phone with confidence that your personal information is secure. We live in the very center of innovation and creativity, so I'm working with staff to see how we can incentivize insurance innovation located here in California and meeting the growing marketplace here that consumers are requesting and deserve. InsurTech will have opportunities for businesses to streamline your operation and lower your costs that we have, that we've only started to explore. If we look at this industry and how it's impacting passenger automobile insurance and telematics, is another area that we're starting to look at. As with InsurTech, more and more, we can no longer talk about auto insurance without considering technology, in my view. Consumers' smartphones now commonly integrated with their vehicle, technological tools that control even and track vehicle safety often comes standard on many vehicles now. So technology is here. Technology is already determining various factors on how we as humans drive, and will help us better indicate who's really more at risk by looking at actual factors that humans can control, as opposed to your gender, your marital status, and really get down to the issues of human driving behavior. And I honestly think, if you know that somebody is, monitoring the way you're braking or how you're driving, you better believe that's going to change your driving behavior. And that's something that can save lives. That is something that can enhance and lessen risk for the entire community and every single Californian. So I'm excited about the prospects of breathing new life into the way we use rating factors in California. So many years ago, Prop 103 was drafted on the principles that a driver should be rated based on how they drive, not where they live. With stronger metrics directly tied to how one drives, we are able to continue to move away from those antiquated, less predictive rating criteria, just as we did with gender in January, as I mentioned. This not only makes sense for the insurance risk perspective, but proper use of telematics has a potential to improve consumer safety dramatically. I see telematics as a very fertile field for potentially growth in automobile insurance. The use of telematics as a rating factor could quite literally put Californians in the driver's seat when it comes to driving safer and actually lowering their premium. So this coming Monday, July 29th, my staff will meet with several automobile insurers, including some of your membership, to begin to explore how we might leverage technology to improve rating criteria while ensuring adequate consumer protections. I look forward to working with you as we look to modernizing California's automobile rating factors. And as you can agree, that is a major shift and a way that we can start engaging the industry like we haven't, like we've never before. So when considering the cost of premiums as well, we cannot ignore the role of that insurance fraud plays into the driving premium increases. Fraud is pervasive, costly, and in some cases even deadly. Your support on our enforcement efforts to protect consumers and the marketplace through fraud and producer enforcement makes a difference in the ability to put a stop to this criminal enterprises. Our 240 sworn peace officers, 93 investigators, 110 professional staff work in 9 regional offices across the state with a wide array of allied agencies to investigate alleged insurance fraud and financial crimes and bring criminals to justice. And I have to add this point because I'm very proud of the fact that 70% of our law enforcement unit are females. No other law enforcement unit can say that they have the number and the diversity that we have in the Department of Insurance. And I'm very proud of the fact that we continue to strive to diversify this law enforcement division of ours. As we know, bad actors, whether they are targeting insurers or preying on consumers, they're increasingly using sophisticated scams to perpetrate fraud. I often joke with my staff about, man, if these are very creative people. If they only put their creativity to good use, I mean, Jesus, they could be running Fortune 500 companies already. It's really fascinating to me how much people will go through to try to fraud the system. But that's why we have professionals to help us. And we know, unfortunately, California continues to be a target for so many of these fraudulent behaviors. So, you know, encouraging and building that strong relationship with you all to help us combat fraud is one of my priorities as well. And so, you know, we all know consumers benefit when we work together to find ways to expand the market and consumer choices. That starts with rolling up our sleeves, taking on the tough issues, being creative, flexible, and trusting that we are all on the same page trying to do the same thing. We want a strong and competitive insurance marketplace where consumers are able to find coverage and making sure that it's not only fair, but that we can meet the needs and the promises that we've entered with every single consumer in California. Thank you for allowing me to speak today, and we'd love to answer a few questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have mics, so please raise your hand and we will give you the mic. Don't be patient. Anybody got a question?
Let's go.
I'll give you
Hot mic, hot mic.
Commissioner Lara, thank you so much for being here and giving your presentation. I am particularly interested in the InsurTech issue. In fact, I am presenting all that later today, and I think I'll just rest because you made my case. But my question is, would the department be prepared to sponsor
the opinion, we don't need legislation to engage in the discussion. That authority solely rests on the insurance commissioner and the department. And why we are engaging now in these working groups is to try to get everybody's perspective. And in the working groups, we're not only engaging the insurance industry, we're engaging consumer advocates, we're engaging consumers to really get a gauge on what they want to see and what are things that are important to them when it comes to choosing an insurance product. We do know through just tangential research that people want to be able to access a product quickly, understand what they're covered, and if there's a problem, they want to talk to somebody live immediately and just help them fix it and then go back to their lives. And so we're seeing companies now kind of starting to engage in these type of products, right? Because we know the searches are happening online. How do we tailor this? And then as a department for ourselves, one of the challenges that we have, which many people said, if you even just get this done in your tenure, you'll erect statues in your honor, would be simplifying contracts in a way that people understand exactly what they're covered, that it's done electronically, and that if somebody's obsessed with figuring out why we have 3 pages of this code section governing that piece of the contract, that you can click on it and you could read it at your leisure. But people do not understand what they're covered for, even after they're signing in. This is people who are highly educated to folks who might not have not even a high school education. The problem is rampant. And one way that we can help promote and stop that is by creating smarter contracts. And the use of technology is key to that.
Those are all fabulous propositions, which I hope go forward. I would say, and then I'll be quiet because other people may have questions, that just through my own discussions with a certain consumer group that has some interest, both in Prop 103 and privacy and so on, that there may be just the teeniest bit of opposition to attempting to use telematics in what many states find to be appropriate ways if there's not a change in the law.
So we're looking both at ways that we can, within the structure of Prop 103 that have critical consumer protections, but also looking at other ways of, what are we gonna, and it's, I'm a firm believer that the proposition has been in place for many years now. We need to modernize it, but we also want to see what we can do within the existing protections that we have for Prop 103, because we don't want to unnecessarily have, want to lessen the consumer protections. I think they go hand in hand, but I think there's several things that we could do within current statute. But we're also looking at other innovations and modernizations that we need to do as we move forward. So we're literally putting everything on the table. We want people to come in with their creative ideas. We want people to come in with, different approaches. We don't want anything to stymie that creativity. And then we'll figure out within the protections of Prop 103, or if we need to revisit to make sure we even looking at enhancing the consumer protections in 103, given that technology now is a reality of our lives. So they're not mutually exclusive. We can do both.
Thank you.
Commissioner, how are you?
All right.
Your climate change initiatives have been noted in and out of industry. There's great discussion going on, and in, I think today's newspaper, there were studies that show that the temperatures worldwide have increased maybe in low denomination, but dramatically for that sense. Could you elaborate a little on that? Because there is a lot of discussion that is going on, and that you have a good group here that can help spread that initiative.
Absolutely. So this is now I'm really going to geek out, because this is really what I'm passionate about. And when you look at the rest of the world, the international carriers are way ahead of us. And so one of the ideas that I have is actually next summer, we'll be bringing international carriers to showcase what they're doing around the world. And we're going to do that here in LA in a global climate insurance summit that you're all going to be invited to really look at what the world is doing and engaging the insurance industry like never before. One, allowing you all to come up with innovative products that protect the environment. And I got this idea after being in Bonn, Germany for the Conference of Parties, and really started engaging international reinsurance companies and international companies who figured out a way about how do we engage in this conversation. What does it mean to be a green insurance company? I mean, that can give you a marketing advantage for many consumers that want to see an insurance company engaged in these fights. And that you could still prove to have a strong insurance market, and we have you'll have a thriving industry, but still doing well for the environment. And the international companies are doing this already. And I'm going to give you a quick example because it's close to home. And I always like to give a shout out to Mexico because they really got this down. You know, Quintana Roo, the state of Quintana Roo in Mexico, you might not know where Quintana Roo is, but I can guarantee you know where Cancun, Tulum, in that whole area region is, right? Isla Mujeres. Well, after every major hurricane that hits that peninsula, it devastates the coral reef. Once the coral reef starts dying, sea level rise starts happening much quicker than we anticipated. And part of the conversations we had at UCLA this week, you could see the beachfront completely eroding to the point where it's now going to start affecting homes and multi-million-dollar hotels. And it'll decimate the tourism industry. And so the government of Quintana Roo, where Cancun and Tulum and all those beautiful places are, started engaging with the Nature Conservancy to figure out how we can use a market mechanism to help them be smarter with their money. And so what they did with Munich Re and Swiss Re was to come up with an insurance product where they actually, together, the Nature Conservancy and the state of Quintana Roo, pay a premium every year to the company. There's monitors on the coral reef. Depending on the gradient of the hurricane, if it's, it's a parametric meter, so if it's, 50 knots, if it's 60 knots, 100 knots, depending on what that is the amount of money that they get to claim back within a month, by the way, to start the recovery efforts and to start reforesting the coral reef immediately. Because we know if the coral reef isn't reforested, they actually, huge chunks of it die. Because sea level rise is happening faster than we thought. This is the first time, and I won't go into all the details because I don't want to bore you, but this is the first time you start seeing an insurance type market product engaged in trying to protect natural infrastructure. And that's exactly what we want to do with the Sustainable Insurance Roadmap. What would be analogous to us here in California? Our forest, our wetlands, our coastal marshes, which all essentially are what nature has put to soften the blow from these massive floods, from extreme weather, and from these fires when it comes to mitigating our forest and tending to our forest. This is happening all over the Pacific Islands, by the way, where you have developing countries, these developing islands, entering into insurance, looking at what a similar model would look like for them, similar to what Mexico's doing. Because after every massive hurricane in Barbados, it decimates 4% of their GDP. And for a country that's still developing and that is relatively still poor, that is a major hit. And so how do we build up that natural infrastructure so that it allows them to buffer these storms as they get stronger and stronger? So that's exactly what we're talking about. One, engaging the industry in a way that we haven't before. And also getting us to a point where we start figuring out, okay, we want insurance companies to divest from fossil fuel and coal. That's absolutely the correct thing to do. But what do we want you to invest in? It used to be that a safe investment was utilities in California. You answer that question for yourself. And so, what would be an appropriate investment for an insurance company now? To make sure, by the way, that we still keep a strong market so we can pay out claims. We're having those discussions with the UN. And what is the appropriate timeline to allow y'all to, I said y'all, to allow you all to, I'm saying a lot of time in Kansas City and in Texas these days, and so to allow you all to be able to plan that into your investments. And so I envision a time when we figure out, okay, what would a green insurance company look like in California, certified by the Department of Insurance? I would say, okay, a company that decides to divest from fossil fuels and coal, that's one certification. But now, if you divest and you invest in these technologies that or in these areas to get us to meet our climate goals, you get a certification. And then what are you doing internally as a company to lessen your carbon footprint? Similar to the LEED building standards that we created for construction. We are working on all that with the UN and what that would look like. But most importantly, I don't want to get to a point where we're just constantly shaming companies. Let's figure out how we work and do this together. Because I still have to guarantee that you all have the resources to pay out these claims. And what do we do with the existing fossil fuel infrastructure that's in place? Who's going to be liable if something happens to that infrastructure? Those are all very complicated things that we need to look at, but that we're working towards in a way that I think is much more collaborative, that saves the environment, allows for still a thriving modern insurance industry, getting us to a point where the insurance industry is now contributing to the fight against climate change. And I know it was a long answer, I apologize, but that's exactly what we're envisioning for the department. Anybody else?
One more question? Hang on.
Hello, Commissioner Lara.
Hello.
I'm Dawn with California Earthquake Authority. It's nice to see you.
See you.
The healthcare issue is also very personal to me, and I have a special empathy for people who are without insurance because of my personal situation over the last year and a half. The medical treatment that saves my life is a pill that literally costs $10,000 a month if I did not have insurance. And that's not a price that
Right.
even people who are people of means can typically pay out $100,000 a year for 1 month, 12 months of treatment. So I'm curious to hear always what people who are in positions of power are doing to work with the insurance companies and with the creators of these medicines, to the pharmaceutical industries, to lower the prices in the United States, because I'm finding, as you were talking about the global economy, global powers, it's just not that way in most countries around the world, but for some reason in the United States, it's a very, very hot button issue.
Right, no,
On
absolutely.
both sides of the fence, there's
Absolutely.
profit versus everything else, and so I'm always curious to see what you guys are working on to address that.
Right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your question. Look, there's no doubt that in the U.S., the cost of healthcare keeps rising. The cost of pharmaceuticals keep rising, and our health outcomes as a country are not any better. And so there's this void that's happening where we're allowing companies to enter the market without any type of regulation in terms of what it truly costs to make that drug. Now, we've, in California, passed legislation a couple years ago that we are starting now to see the effects about what is the real cost of these specific medications, and how are you formulating that into your profit. One idea that I thought was brilliant in my travels around the world looking at this issue is something that Germany does. And Germany allows for pharmaceutical companies to enter into the market, charge whatever they deem appropriate, and during the course of the first year that they're in the market, there is an independent group of scientists and government officials who are investigating the efficacy of this drug, and to make sure that we're double checking on how efficacious they said it's actually going to be. Because the last thing they want in going into their public system is just another hypertension drug that's going to just be another hypertension drug that really doesn't do anything better, then might as well just stay with the drug they have now. So in the course of that year, they investigate the efficacy of this drug, and if they find that it doesn't meet what they were promoting, then they have to reimburse the entire state. The pharmaceutical company has to reimburse the state. And that does a couple things. It keeps the pharmaceutical companies honest about how efficacious their drugs are. And we actually have a third-party watchdog looking at how much does this actually really cost, and if it's prudent for it to be entered into their public system, the public healthcare system. That provides, I think, a good equilibrium for us to still allow for folks to enter the market and price their products accordingly, but also triple checking that it's actually, reality. That's where I thought we can find an appropriate kind of hybrid balance, but one where the also state has the ability to come in to find out how much we're actually paying and what is the real cost of the drug. When I had this conversation with the health minister in Canada, literally almost laughed in my face and said, the irony is, look, our system is not perfect. There are wait lines. There are, problems with our system in terms of moving forward of affordability because they just don't have enough. People are not reproducing as many children as before. So you need people constantly coming in, and why they're very big on immigration because they want people working, paying into the system. But he told me to my face, if I asked him, I said, how much do you pay for Listenapro, let's say? High blood pressure right here. And they said, look, we can't tell you because that we negotiate. All the provinces get together, meet with the pharmaceutical, and we tell them this is how much we're gonna pay for your drug if you wanna enter our system. And that's it. But it's all classified information, I can't tell you, but I can tell you that the irony is that the R&D that's happening in California for these drugs, not only are they being created in California, manufactured in California for the most part, but you're paying 5 times the amount that we're paying. And it's sad, because we still haven't got to a point where we have any controls in terms of cutting down the cost of these pharmaceuticals. So whether you believe in a public healthcare system or not, or in single payer, we at least have to get to a point where we give government the negotiating authority to be able to determine what drugs we're going to allow into the market, because that's the only way we bring the price down. Right now, there's absolutely no regulation, and it's a free market where people are getting gouged, and you start seeing these $1,000 EpiPens or multi-$1,000 stuff. So we have to get to a point where government is given the authority. But that's, and I don't want to belabor the question because it's a fundamental question about us as Americans. Since I was in primary school, government is bad. Big government is bad. Government's bad. Well, it wasn't the fight against Hamilton and Washington, like back in the day, this is what we were taught. And other countries don't have that. It's this whole like, I'm gonna pick myself up by my own bootstraps. I got health insurance. I don't care about everybody else. It's much more communal outside and around the world. At a certain point, the doctor's gonna tell you, Mr. Jones, we can't do anything else. You have to go home and enjoy the rest of your life. In the US, we want drugs even if it's not even impacting our healthcare anymore, and if they're not being efficacious. So it's a mental shift, a cultural shift that we have to overcome when it comes to thinking about a government-type healthcare system. And there's things that government have gotten right. Social Security, the VA, there's things, these all have different problems, but for the most part, they work. And it's just getting past that mentality about that government, so somehow anything that's run by government is bad. And I think that's our biggest impediment to prescription drug prices and to fixing the cost of our healthcare system. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much. I hope you, go ahead.
I'm interested in your thoughts about the implication to the insurance business related to the California Consumer Privacy Act.
Oh, Lord. Okay. My general counsel's here. No, I mean, look, this is something, we were reviewing. It's something that we are talking with, trying to figure out, the specific nuances, but, I wish I could tell you we're doing a couple, briefings on this issue where we're looking at just that question we posed, and so I'll get back to you when I can talk about this issue. But you got it. Anyhow, before I get any more issue, talk about anything that I shouldn't be talking about, or I can't talk about, I should say. I want to thank you guys and ladies for giving me this opportunity. And know we have a long road ahead trying to combat these fires, but I think the future looks bright when it comes to the opportunities that technology is giving us, the new willingness that we have from the insurance industry to engage in these critical issues. Look, it's difficult when you face an industry that always just tells you no, no, and no. We've seen what that's happened. California has been left behind when it comes to innovation. California needs to modernize our own internal processes. But if we're gonna build that goodwill, if we're gonna start working with an open and transparent mind, we have to get to a point where we agree that, we're not always gonna agree on the best course of action, but at the very minimum, we've had an opportunity to discuss and dialogue in an open atmosphere where we continue to dialogue about the issues that are gonna continue to impact California. And I get criticized all the time for saying this, but given the fact of just how large our market is, how diverse our consumers are, that whether we like it or not, California is coming to a neighborhood near you. And these problems are gonna come and sneak into your neighborhoods or around the country. So help us find solutions for them now before they exacerbate later. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but I can't know how to read it. It said good morning in the first phrase. I'm all confused.
It's a test. If you can't pass that, we need to draw.
And we were going to see how it's going to
Okay, and it's Julia, right? Am I saying it right? Okay, awesome. All right, well,
Thank you. Sure.
awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, Michael.
I was wearing the pink dress, so I wore a bright color today. Nice to see you. I just wanted to let you know, I know you've probably seen the agenda, but American Family Insurance actually does write a report that self-care operators. We are actually presenting on a U.S. petition just recent litigation at the CAT.
Okay.
So our chief business development officer is going to comments today. I think you'll enjoy. What we're doing is exactly what you're talking about. Good to meet you. Muchas gracias.
Yes.
Because I've got a host of people that have a lot of ideas.
We appreciate that. Working group and trying to roll out restructure. Just people that really want to do this at all.
Yeah.
It's like different ideas for us, we're trying to figure out what answers are just
Is there a key person in your department who's here?
yes. He just took the position. It was my turn.
Awesome,
Well, thank you.
I did this all week, it was Saturday, and then everybody wanted to.
Yeah, you can come to our office. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
That'd be sorry. I don't have any issues or anything to discuss, just wanted to say hi and welcome to that, yeah. That's awesome, thank you. Okay, I will. Hey, thanks for coming again this week. Thank you.
I'm James.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Recently,
Oh, okay. Nice. Good.
yeah, I'm working with Paul Rock.
Yes. Yes.
But great to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys always do great things to say.
Yes.